Part 1. The preparations and the first plagues. 1. Moses is called by God. The story begins with Moses, an Israelite raised in the Egyptian palace, who had fled Egypt after killing an Egyptian. Moses lives in the desert and becomes a shepherd. One day, Moses encounters a burning bush that is not consumed by the fire. From the bush, God calls Moses and gives him the mission to go and free my people, the Israelites, from slavery in Egypt. Moses is reluctant, but God promises to be with him and help him. Moses returns to Egypt and meets Pharaoh. 2. The encounter with Pharaoh. Moses and his brother Aaron go before Pharaoh and ask him to release the Israelites so they may worship God in the desert. Pharaoh refuses, saying that the Israelites have no reason to be free. Not only does Pharaoh refuse, but he also makes the work of the Israelites harder by demanding they make bricks without providing straw. The Israelites become discouraged and turn to Moses. 3. The 10 plagues prophesied. God instructs Moses to warn Pharaoh about the 10 plagues he will send if Pharaoh refuses to release the Israelites. Each plague is a direct challenge to the power and gods of Egypt, and God will intervene directly in the lives of the Egyptian people. 4. The first plague, the Nile River turns to blood. Moses goes to Pharaoh and warns that if Pharaoh does not release the Israelites, God will turn the waters of the Nile River into blood. Immediately, all the water in the river, canals, and reservoirs turns into blood. All the fish in the river die, and the water becomes undrinkable. Pharaoh still refuses to change, even though the Egyptian magicians are able to replicate this plague. 5. The second plague, frogs. God orders Moses and Aaron to summon a plague of frogs from the Nile River to invade all the houses, beds, and everywhere in Egypt. The frogs invade every place, making life unbearable for the Egyptians. Pharaoh once again asks Moses to pray to God to stop the plague, promising to release the Israelites, but once the plague stops, Pharaoh reneges on his promise. 6. The third plague, gnats. Moses and Aaron go before Pharaoh once more, warning of the third plague, gnats. God commands all the dust of the earth to become gnats, which infest the land, attacking both people and animals. This time, even the Egyptian magicians cannot replicate this plague. Pharaoh continues to harden his heart and refuses to release the Israelites. 7. The fourth plague, flies. A swarm of flies descends upon Egypt, covering the land. These flies not only annoy the people but also cause contamination and unhygienic conditions. Pharaoh once again promises to release the Israelites if God will stop the plague, but when the plague ends, Pharaoh goes back on his word. 8. The fifth plague, livestock disease. Pharaoh refuses to relent, and God sends a severe plague that kills all the livestock of the Egyptians: cows, donkeys, sheep, goats, and horses. However, the livestock of the Israelites is unaffected. Pharaoh still refuses to release the Israelites. Part 2. The remaining plagues and the Exodus. 9. The sixth plague, boils. After Pharaoh continued to refuse Moses' request to release the Israelites, God sent the sixth plague, boils. Moses and Aaron threw soot into the air, and it turned to dust, causing painful boils on both people and animals in Egypt. Even Pharaoh's magicians were affected. Despite the suffering, Pharaoh's heart remained hardened, and he refused to let the Israelites go. 10. The seventh plague, hail. Moses warned Pharaoh about a devastating hailstorm that would destroy crops and livestock. The storm brought hail, thunder, and fire, causing massive destruction. Moses told Pharaoh that only those who feared God and brought their animals indoors would be spared. After the hail ended, Pharaoh again promised to release the Israelites, but he quickly broke his word once the storm passed. 11. The eighth plague, locusts. Locusts swarmed Egypt, eating all the remaining crops. Pharaoh begged Moses to pray for the plague to stop, promising to free the Israelites. However, once the locusts were gone, Pharaoh refused to keep his promise. The locusts caused severe devastation, showing the powerlessness of Egypt's gods. 12. The ninth plague, darkness. A thick darkness covered Egypt for 3 days, with no one able to see or move. The Egyptian sun god, Ra, was powerless before God's might. Meanwhile, the Israelites had light. Pharaoh offered to let the Israelites go, but demanded they leave their livestock behind, which Moses refused. Pharaoh then threatened Moses with death. 13. The 10th plague, the death of the firstborn. The final plague was the death of all firstborns in Egypt. God instructed the Israelites to mark their doorposts with lamb's blood so that the angel of death would pass over their houses. At midnight, every firstborn in Egypt died. Pharaoh, devastated by the loss of his son, finally ordered the Israelites to leave. 14. The Exodus. The Israelites leave Egypt. The Israelites left Egypt in haste, taking gold, silver, and clothing given by the Egyptians. God led them by a pillar of cloud by day and fire by night. When they reached the Red Sea, Pharaoh pursued them, but God parted the waters, allowing the Israelites to cross. The Egyptian army was drowned when the waters returned. The Israelites were freed, beginning their journey to the Promised Land.